hopefully the ultimate goal is to plan the next strategy, the next responsibilities that all of us bear on our shoulders.
We can't use bus with wheelchair. It's very hard.
I need Braille. I haven't paid $320 to come to this conference to not have a lousy program.
They're not reporting what we're doing with humans,
exactly.
that we're doing a very positive thing here in various ways, and it's just not coming across.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of DNET, the Disability Network. I'm Susan Pettit-Crossman. Independence 92, which was held in April, was a world first. It brought together over 4,000 disabled people from over 70 countries. The event included a conference, an exposition, and a full schedule of entertainment. This week and next, we'll be bringing you highlights of this unique event.
I'm Joe Ross. I'm here to help make this documentary about Independence 92. It'll be the largest gathering of disabled people the world has ever seen.
And I'll take this for you too, okay?
Yeah, that's great. I've been using a wheelchair since 1969 as a result of a car accident.
How's that?
Don't you write that down.
Okay, we're on our way.
People with all kinds of disabilities have come here to look at their choices and their rights. And it's so important as the International Year of the Disabled comes to a close. We've come here to share ideas, to talk about experiences, and to learn from each other.
Wait, halfway up.
If we can look ahead and see how we organize ourselves collectively for the next decade, it will be very worthwhile.
And we're going to see performances by some of the best disabled artists in the world.
You're okay there. Hang on a sec.
Would you like to ask who they're made?
This world event far outstretches many other national events and even international events. It is the first time in history that this cross-section of people with multiple disabilities from such a variety of cultures and countries have come together. It's historical.
The conference, I feel, is critical because it's going to be a real benefit in terms of information networking, finding out what other countries and other people are doing in terms of disabilities, what disabled people themselves are doing, blind, deaf people, and so on. I think that in terms of information, it will be very beneficial to find out what's going on, what laws have had a negative or a positive impact on people.
You know, these are rolling thunder streets, and everybody is rolling along, and the able-bodied have to hop out of our way.
Ah, les gens d'épilepsie.
The sense of community that you get walking in the hallways while everybody's trying to find their workshops is pretty amazing.
Those people in South Africa who speak,
Yeah?
I'm from there. I'm a Zulu.
Ya no hay boletos. Ya, yo estoy buscando boletos.
테크놀로지가 더 있잖아요. Caribbean, that is pretty close to South America. South America. Way down. Very far.
It's an opportunity for us to share our expertise and our experiences with other people with disabilities so we can learn from each other.
Can't you spot the Australian?
How do you spot the Australian in a crowd like that?
The one without a tie.
I think the message here is that when you're dealing with over 13% of the population that share a common bond, that's a force that's got to be reckoned with. It's a huge potential for political change. And you're not alone. And you can make a difference. No matter how big or how small the contribution is, everybody has a role to play. Even if it's simply waking up in the morning and trying to get out of bed and trying to reach your potential and going off to apply for a job, and going to school, being a volunteer in the community. It doesn't take big things to make a difference because access and exposure creates awareness and that creates change.
And I'm interested in the solutions. I mean, I have frustrations enough, and I'm interested in the solutions.
The general public still has this attitude that if you're disabled, it's the worst possible thing that could happen to you. It's not true. I mean, we just want to get on with our lives. We've got jobs, we've got families. We want to do everything that we were doing before. And we can do that if the attitudes change.
Make sure that the two front wheels get on one step and you grip the rails evenly on both sides. And the back wheels will come automatically on another step. You just hold and takes you up there. Actually, when you want to learn, you get somebody to be behind you. It gives you double security, right? And when you reach up there, the person just push you off. The same thing when you're coming down, the person just pull you off.
Is it dangerous?
No, it isn't.
This conference has 3 or 4 major possibilities. First of all, it's the celebration of the accomplishments and the regrets for those accomplishments that did not happen in the last decade. Of course, the more important thing is the sharing of experiences and skills and knowledge of the disabled community throughout the world, and the reflection of many of the issues that we still encounter. But hopefully, the ultimate goal is to plan the next strategy, the next responsibilities that all of us bear on our shoulders for the perhaps towards the year 2000, and achieving real equality of opportunity and sharing resources.
Independent living is disabled people coming together, disabled people making friends, disabled people dancing, disabled people getting involved in relationships, and even, dare I say, disabled people loving themselves.
I don't regret my life as a disabled person. I mean, my life has gone the way it has gone. I became disabled at the age of 6. At this point in life, I would not go back and do it differently. I feel enriched by my life experience, and I assert my joy at being alive, as others do, and I will dispute with anyone who says my life is not as worth living as anyone else's.
I have people come up to me and tell me that they're going to heal me. And I say, why? And it confuses them because I am healed.
Getting out into the streets of Vancouver was a learning experience for many delegates. And just going out into the community and meeting people that weren't always staring at you because you were disabled.
It's been good. There's a lot of people from around the world, a lot of new ideas. You get to talk to people, see what they're doing, see what's happening, new products. It's good.
I was injured in '74, so back then when I went out in the chair, hardly anybody was going out that was in a chair. You'd go to a shopping mall, you'd be the only one out there. There weren't any facilities really for you. I mean, if you were good enough and mobile enough, you could push your way around and get through. But if you weren't, you just didn't bother. You just stayed home and didn't go out. So it's getting a lot better that way. There's a lot more facilities. People are accepting it more. It's a lot better all the way around.
One of the great things about holding a conference in Vancouver is that the city itself is totally accessible from the point of view of being in a wheelchair. One of the things that I just couldn't believe was coming out of my hotel and hopping on a wheelchair accessible bus. I mean, it's unheard of back in Toronto. In Toronto, you've got handy transit, but you have to wait and you have to book 4 days in advance. Here, there's no wait. You just come out. You don't have to dictate your life around the transportation system. You can just hop on and do it.
Where we'll let you off at a Stanley Park loop, bus loop, and then you can go into the walkway into the park. There's phones there. Or did you want to see the aquarium?
Everything.
Aquarium? Everything.
Everything.
Okay.
It's only in Vancouver that I've found a city to be this accessible.
It's remarkable to look out there and see boats and airplanes and buildings and have accessible taxis, accessible sea bus. This is the first time I've ridden a sea bus, and I can just go right on and get off without any problems.
Oh, isn't that something else? Look at, oh God, they've caught up with us. There you go, sweetie.
The business community in Vancouver has learned that it makes good business sense to make their buildings accessible, to open up their doors so that we can go in and shop like everybody else. They want to go to restaurants, they want to travel, they want to enjoy various forms of entertainment.
We're gonna see fishing place that for handicapped people can fish here. We are worrying that we're gonna get a big fish and we are not strong enough to catch them. In Japan, we can't use bus with wheelchair. It's very hard. Very hard. So it's very nice here.
When we arrived at the airport, for example, there's 60 wheelchair cabs, accessible cabs there. So we were able to just come off the airplane, get right on a cab and go to the hotel. No wait. This is what all big cities should be like. One day we decided that we would go for a little trip. So we took the ferry boat across, which was totally accessible. Then went up to Gross Mountain, which was accessible on the tram.
I'd like to welcome everyone to Gross Mountain this afternoon. Just tell you a little bit about the mountain and the view on the way up.
On the dance floor and do your thing for us. That's what we're here for, to have a good time and get to know each other, have some fun.
One of the things that I think will surprise a lot of people is seeing people in chairs up on the dance floor dancing. Unless you happen to know somebody in a chair or you run into this situation, a lot of people still think that people in wheelchairs can't get out and do what everybody else is doing, have an active social life, go dancing, partying, all the things that everybody else takes for granted. But if you're disabled, you're not allowed to do those things.
Is there any braille around that a blind person could read?
When you organize a conference of this size, you expect to have problems. I don't think anybody expected the problems that the blind ran into with not having braille, or the deaf and not having interpreters in some of the sessions.
And every time I have communicated with this conference, I have said, I need braille. I haven't paid $320 to come to this conference to not have a lousy program.
And this is the last gathering that I expected to feel like a second-class citizen at.
If we don't have it at 2, at that point we meet and we occupy somebody's office.
I think if we don't have it at 10, we occupy somebody's office.
We don't have it right now.
I think we should make the point now. Well, I want to make the point now.
You didn't think of making it accessible for us to have the translating done in French.
We don't participate at the same basis. We don't feel equal.
sighted?
They always leave us out. Why is it always the blind people that get left out?
We want them to acknowledge it publicly and apologize, and they haven't committed themselves to doing that yet.
That's blind
There's a lot of barriers in here.
That we're second-class citizens, even in the minds of the disability movement.
That we're being
Whenever you're in trouble, you can stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Won't you stand now? Stand by me.
Blind Canadians and our international visitors deserve an apology and a commitment on behalf of the organizers that Braille materials will become available to us immediately and will be distributed to people who need them.
When we see two groups attempt to come together, there we see problems. There, equality is not necessarily achieved. The time has come for us to learn the needs, the situations, and the priorities of each group, and to give honor and respect to those differences.
Does it surprise me? Sadly not, actually. Sadly not, no. We get rather used to these things as blind people.
What's been your experience here as a blind person?
Inadequate facilities. The volunteers haven't been properly trained. There's no accessible materials. It's pretty typical, I have to say. I mean, it's not atypical. Conferences are like this.
You know, it's been a tremendous learning experience, and I think if we were part of the organizing committee to do it a second time, there are a lot of things that we would do differently, some things we would do the same, but you would probably see a completely revamped event from top to bottom.
I want to tell you this too, I'll bet you with talking cars, in another 5 years, we will find blind people driving cars. Talking cars? I'll be behind the wheel, the car will simply tell me what to do. It'll be like turn right, turn left, pedestrian crossing at 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet, never mind.
A lot of people were upset with the lack of media at the event. There were reporters from various countries that were disabled reporters that were reporting on what was going on.
How involved are you with Disabled Persons International, or have you got a link with them?
Throughout the whole week, there was very little media coverage. They seemed to come out at the opening when the politicians were there, and they seemed to go for the high-profile events when Rick Hansen's doing his tour, but they weren't reporting on the regular seminars and the proceedings that were going on all week long.
It really is functional examples of independent living.
I have a lady in the back.
None of the papers are actually reporting what is happening here. In fact, television, from what I've seen locally, has reported about what wonders the Super Crip's doing. I haven't seen anything about the workshops, about what DPI has been doing, about we as disabled people have been doing here over the last few days.
It's more of the same shit that a lot of us have had to live with for years. You know, I'm a psychiatric survivor, so guess what's in the Globe and Mail? Oh, Charles Manson, great. You know, that means that everybody who's so-called crazy is dangerous, right? This is what the Globe and Mail and all the media do.
Anybody that has a brown badge on is press, okay? And
there's going to be a hanging.
So most of the media are in and out of this place or at one time in the room, so.
So is there any way then that you can arrange to try and get those people who are representing the various media formats to come here and meet with us so that we can ask them why they're not truly representing what's going on here at this conference?
See, what we're concerned about is that this is going on here. We have so many people from different countries, the associations for cross-disability here, and just the coverage is not here.
We're not seeing it in the media. We're not seeing it in the amount and the type that we should see.
Like
the workshops, what's going on in the workshops. Not just the super people who are here, but what about the content of the workshops?
I had more coverage when I started a post-polio group in Quebec in 6 months than I've seen here. For an international thing.
It's not just that it's international, it's the fact that it's the first time ever that there's been the numbers of disabled people actually in one place doing so much work around empowerment of ourselves as individuals.
It's as if they don't exist. It's as if we don't exist.
Exactly.
As if we don't exist.
Because you'll get a flavor for what this spirit of independence is all about. It gives you a sense of not only what is possible for the future, but what is happening today in terms.
The press will certainly show stories about the brave and the wonderful, and in fact the evil disabled person who's committed this onerous crime.
Yeah.
But they're not reporting what we're doing with humans.
Exactly.
That we're doing a very positive thing here in various ways, and it's just not coming across.
In an earlier and more fatalistic time, we were crippled, blind, deaf and dumb, simple-minded, touched, cursed, damned, burned, shunned, hidden away, hidden away.
From what people told me, none of the mainstream media have really covered this. And I'm curious about why. I mean, is that because, you know, does that have to do with how able-bodied people, you know, feel or fear about disability or what?
I think that's true. I think that the media have largely, that the mainstream media have largely ignored this event, but then they wouldn't they, to be honest? I mean, disability issues are ignored largely in the mainstream media. I think that's what we've come to expect until disabled people, including those of us in the media, force it onto the political agenda by making people take a position, however uncomfortable that may be. We're going to remain very much a marginalised discussion, and it's part of the. It says more about the level at which the organisations of disabled people are at the moment and where they've still to go, despite the progress that's been made, than it does commentating on the media, because I think the media, you know, aren't going to take notice unless something exciting or interesting is happening.
I don't think that we as people with disability have made this stuff accessible to the media, and that's our problem, not the media's problem and not the society's problem. We've got to learn how to make the material easy for the media to get hold of and readily available. Now, there's more stories here than you can shake a stick at. There's a wheelchair that climbs stairs that is virtually the first time it's been seen in public. If we had people here who were looking for those stories, preparing the releases, organising the media briefings, and giving it to the media on a platter. I mean, these people are busy. They don't have time to send media people here day after day hoping to get a story. We've got to help them by providing it for them.
People are gaining information in the world in which they live by the news more and more. And news is market-driven, it's mostly negative. And so it can really undermine people. And if we don't sort of recognize that media is what it is and use it for what it is, but look at alternate forms of communication to deliver messages. So we're not entrenched in expecting news to deliver our messages. I mean, there's a lot of excellent opportunities out there that we're just not accessing.
That's our show. Tune in again next week for the second part of our look at Independence 92. I'm Susan Pettit-Crossman. Now here's our address. Disability Network, CBC, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W1E6. That's the Disability Network, CBC, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W1E6. Or you can fax us at 416-975-5636.